because Jael's husband has kind of made a peace treaty with the enemy, with the Canaanites, and so he thinks this is a friendly place. So we can glean a lot of things just from this story. We know that Jael was home. I'm just going to throw in this picture. She was home with her kids, and she had a husband who probably wasn't her spiritual leader, really. Maybe he was a husband who wasn't even going to church. You know, he was a husband who maybe was a little difficult. He certainly was making a bad deal with a bad guy. And if that is feeling a little bit like your story, I want you to know that most of the women that I speak with, you know, it's the rare woman whose husband is the spiritual leader in their homes. You all are coming here to Bible study. It just shows me that you've got a thirst for things of the Lord, and I love that. And if your husband's not there, the best way to get him there is to pray. Because I've seen too many times women go to their husbands and just start nagging, and why don't you go to church? Why don't you be the spiritual leader? Why don't you wake up on Sunday? Quit watching the game. I mean, all that stuff. And then you just wonder, why don't you want to come to church? It sounds like so much fun. And I think instead, the thing I believe, and I've just heard so many amazing stories about men who just saw the difference in their wives. And slowly over time, they were like, it's just a smile on your face all the time. And when you talk about things of the Lord, it's in such a joyful way, and you've been letting me off the hook for not going, and you are really something. I may want to come. And that's the hook for the Jaels, for those of us who are Jaels, who have that type of struggle with our husbands. But the picture here is that Jael was just at home, kind of minding her own business, and they didn't have phones back then, so she didn't get a phone call. But she did get a visitor. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Turn aside, my master, turn aside to me, do not be afraid." And he came into the tent, and she covered him with a rug. So this evil man is asking Jael just to cover him with a blanket and act like it's not there, and that it will go away. And ladies, the picture I'm giving you here is that evil, the picture of this war, Jael is literally involved in a war, but the picture of this war is that evil is coming, and it's coming into our homes, it's coming after us, the enemy is coming after us, he wants to rob us of our joy, he is looking for ways to sabotage our day. And then let's take a look at verse 21. But Jael, Haber's wife, took a tent peg, which is easy to find because that's right there in her house, she lives in a tent, took a tent peg and seized a hammer in her hand, and went secretly to him, and drove the peg into his temple. And it went through into the ground, for he was sound asleep and exhausted. And then I love this next verse. So he died. Okay, yeah. I bet that's what happened. Okay, now you're thinking, gosh, I mean, those of you who are here for the first time thinking, wow, she tells some good stories, right around breakfast time. Taking this tent peg and putting it through this man's head. But the picture I want to give you, ladies, is that for those of you who are still at home with young kids, that's our job, is to be ready with a tent peg, and when evil comes, when problems come, when things come, we need to pick up that tent peg and be proactive and be strong women of strength and drive it through what's ever coming into our homes. And how do we do that? We do it through prayer. We do it through coming to Christ. Here's a verse I want to share with you. You don't need to turn there, but I want you to write this down because I think it's so exciting. It's Zechariah, almost at the end of the Old Testament. Zechariah, chapter 10, verse 4. And they're talking about Christ coming. And it's a prophecy about Christ coming, and he's going to come on his majestic horse in battle. And look at verse 4. It says, "From them, from Judah, will come the cornerstone. From them, from Judah, will come the tent peg." Now, I read that to you. We're getting kind of deep here in Zechariah, but I share that with you today because in Scripture, there are 3 places for Christ himself, and this is one of them, is referred to as the tent peg. So what do we have this strong, amazing Jael doing then? What do we see Jael doing when evil comes into her home? She is picking up Christ, and she is putting it through any adversarial thing that comes after her babies, anything that's coming after her home. She recognizes evil. She sees that that is not okay, and she is ready to do battle with it. She's not a wimpy mom. My goodness, is she not a wimpy mom. And I think it's so interesting that, the first thing we do is we see her kind of brush it under the rug, literally, don't we? I mean, she puts this man under a rug. And I think the contrast there is so compelling, because I think so many times we as women just kind of brush the problems under the rug and just think it's going to go away, it's going to be okay, just take care of this, Lord, and we're just going to put it under the rug, but it's still there. And so I would just ask you this morning, ladies, what struggles are you going through at home? When I say be joyful, I don't mean brush it under the rug. Oh, it's okay. What lump? There's nothing going on here. We're good. Everything's good. Is anyone at your house? No. Absolutely not. But instead, when hard things come, pick up Christ.